Hey, it's Leah. Today I'm going to tell you a story that still gives me chills. It's about the night of my 34th birthday dinner at my parents' house, a night that started with pot roast and ended with police sirens in my apartment parking lot. If you've ever sat at a table with people who smile at your face while stabbing you in the back, you'll understand why I stayed quiet for so long. But that night, everything changed. Let me set the scene. I'm a 34-year-old ICU nurse in Dayton, Ohio. I work nights, I stay calm when machines beep, and I've spent my whole adult life being the fixer in my family. My parents, Frank and Carol, are the kind of people who plan every holiday down to the minute. So when my mom called twice in 1 week about my birthday dinner, something she hadn't done since I was 12, I should have known something was up. She sounded sweet, the way she used to when I was a kid. "We're doing it here, honey. Family only." I told myself people soften with age. I was wrong. The dinner started like any other. Candles unlit, plates passed, my brother Kyle shoveling in food. I was there with my 7-year-old son, Noah, who was coloring at the end of the table. Then, just as everyone was settled, my mother leaned over to my dad and whispered loud enough for me to catch every word. "Since everyone's here, have your son change the locks at her apartment." Her apartment. Mine. The one I bought with my own money. The one where my son sleeps. My dad nodded without looking up. Kyle set down his fork, mumbled something about a phone call, and walked out with his key ring. The rest of the family kept passing the potatoes. I smiled and complimented the pot roast. 1 hour later, Kyle came back through that front door with a face the color of hospital sheets, leaned down to my mom's ear, and whispered, "Mom, there." He never finished the sentence. Because at that moment, he realized the police were already at my apartment, waiting for him. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why that moment felt like a detonation, I need to take you back 6 weeks. At that point, my life was small, good, and mine. I worked nights at St. Camilla's Hospital, came home to my condo in Maple Crossing, and spent Tuesdays at my parents' house for dinner, because Tuesday dinner was on my mother's calendar. And things on my mother's calendar happened whether you wanted them to or not. I thought I was just the dutiful daughter. I had no idea I was the victim of a 12-year-long con. It started with a declined debit card. I was at CVS buying antibiotics for Noah's ear infection. The card was declined. I tried again. Declined. My backup card was flagged for fraud. There was a line behind me, a teenager with energy drinks, an older woman with a cane, all politely studying the gum display while my face went hot. I paid with crumpled 20s and sat in my car, doing the breathing exercise I use at work when a monitor starts screaming. That night, I signed up for a credit monitoring app. What I saw made my hands steady. 12 years of ICU training will do that. There was a Visa card opened in 2022 in my name. Balance, $4,800. Status, 60 days past due. My credit score had tanked, which is why a nurse with a spotless payment history got humiliated over a 14 prescription. I clicked into the details, expecting some stranger's address. The billing address was my parents' house on Cathartic Avenue. I'd grown up there. The phone number listed was their landline since 1998. I called the bank, filed a fraud report, and sat there staring at my reflection in the microwave door. A memory surfaced. When I was 27, a few months after Noah was born, I'd gotten a letter about a credit inquiry I didn't recognize. I'd driven to my parents' house, put the letter on the kitchen table, and my dad had chuckled, pulling a folded page from his file box. "Bank error, sweetheart. Your father already handled it." My mom had patted my hand. "You have a newborn. Go worry about him." I'd let it go. But sitting in my kitchen 7 years later, I finally finished that thought. It wasn't a bank error. It was a near miss. Over the next 3 days, I turned my kitchen table into a caseboard. I requested my full credit reports from all 3 bureaus. 40 pages. I read them like a chart on a crashing patient. It was worse than one Visa. There were cards opened in 2014, 2016, 2017, a personal loan in 2019 for $12,000, paid off and closed. 9 accounts total. 12 years of history. None of it mine. All of it wearing my name. And every single account listed the same mailing address, my childhood home. For 12 years, every bill, every late notice, had been delivered to a bedroom where I couldn't see them and somebody else could. The personal loans stopped me cold. 12,000 opened and dispersed in March 2019. I gave birth to Noah on March 15, 2019. I spent that month in a hospital bed with preeclampsia, being told not to stand up too fast. While I was learning to nurse my son, somebody was across town signing my name for 12,000. I pinned that fact to my closet door and wrote one question. What else did I sign in March 2019? The answer came from the Montgomery County Recorder's Office. A power of attorney. General, durable, financial. Grantaire, Leah Townsend. Attorneys in fact, Frank and Carol Townsend. Signed and notarized on March 14, 2019, a day when I was admitted in the hospital, unable to walk to the bathroom without a nurse holding my arm. According to the county, I had stood before a notary and cheerfully signed my financial life over to my parents. The signature was perfect. Too perfect. It was a forgery. A power of attorney is a skeleton key. Once I knew it existed, the whole 12 years reorganized itself. The loan, the newer cards, the address changes, all downstream of that one piece of paper. I called my credit union to check my mortgage. The loan officer, Gary, reassured me the mortgage was current. Then he added, funny timing though. We got a verification request on your property last month from another lender. Underwriting. Somebody was checking what my condo was worth. Something new was being built in my name, and it wasn't finished yet. For the first time, I wasn't investigating a crime. I was interrupting one. I also discovered my parents had been stealing from my grandmother, Margaret. She'd lived with them her last 2 years, and they'd used a caregiver card to drain her teacher's pension, $23,000 in small withdrawals that looked like groceries. The last withdrawal cleared 4 days before she died. My grandmother hadn't been forgetful, she'd been robbed. She'd hidden one thing from them, a 40,000 CD that came to me in her will and became the down payment on my condo. She'd protected the last of her money and handed that vault to me. I owed her an apology I could only deliver with receipts. I built a binder. Green tabs for accounts, yellow for dates, red for money in motion. I froze my credit at all 3 bureaus. I filed a report with the FTC. I scheduled an appointment with Detective Mara Reyes in the Financial Crimes Unit. When I showed her the binder, she read for 20 minutes without speaking. Her first question, who else has copies? I told her a bank vault. She nodded. Then she slid one page back across the table, Gary's note about the verification request. All of this is history, she said. Prosecutable maybe, but history. This page is different. Somebody ordered an asset check on your condo last month. That's underwriting behavior. Underwriting means money that hasn't moved yet. This isn't a case about what your parents did. It's a case about what they're doing. Reyes called me 3 days later. There was a home equity loan in underwriting at a regional lender. Borrower, Leah Townsend. Collateral, my condo. Amount, $85,000. Scheduled to close Friday. My mother had told me about a little bank appointment on Friday, casual as a napkin. She'd given me the deadline herself. The loan was already flagged, dead in the water, but from the outside it looked alive. We let it look alive. Frozen solid 3 days before my birthday, and the people who built it had no idea they were standing on ice. Meanwhile, my mother's birthday planning got stranger. She called twice a week about a cake from Ashley's Bakery, 3 layers lemon. She'd never baked or bought a birthday cake for me in 22 years. She also asked odd questions. You still keep your important papers in that little fireproof box, don't you? The gray one from Target. Then she offered to take Noah overnight the night of my party. So you can relax, have a glass of wine. He can sleep in Kyle's old room. Every cell in my body went cold. She wanted Noah out of the apartment. She wanted into my firebox. I told her Noah had a sleepover planned with my friend Tessa's boys. It became true one phone call later. I prepared. I changed the locks on my condo, new deadbolt, doorbell camera, steel bar on the slider. I emptied the firebox, took every rail document to the safe deposit box downtown, and filled the box with photocopies of junk mail and one blank sheet of paper. A decoy. If someone came for my paper life, they'd find exactly what they'd earned. Nothing. My neighbor Walt, a retired sheriff's deputy, kept watch. He'd seen a gray sedan, a locksmith's car, cruising the lot, photographing my doors. He wrote down the plate. The locksmith was measuring for a rekey. Tuesday night before my birthday, I helped with dishes at my parents' house. My mother took a phone call on the back porch. I was alone with the china hutch. Under the Easter napkins lay a manila folder. I opened it. Inside were pages of ruled paper filled with my name, over and over, in ink that changed color as the years went by. One signature practiced again and again. Leah Townsend. Leah Townsend. The early pages clumsy, the loops too fat. By the last pages, it was perfect, smoother than my real hand. This was rehearsal. Someone had sat at that table and trained. Under the practice sheets were my grandmother's bank statements. I photographed everything and went back to drying the roasting pan. Wednesday, my birthday, arrived hot and blue. I made pancakes, watched Noah ride his bike in the parking lot with Walt and his dog Biscuit. I packed Noah's overnight bag for Tessa's. At Tessa's door, I hugged him longer than necessary. He squirmed free, and I drove away with my hands at 10 and 2. The evidence was banked. The child was safe. The table was set. All that was left was the part only I could do, show up and be lied to beautifully one last time. I arrived at my parents' house at 6:30. My mother opened the door before I knocked. There's my birthday girl. She smelled like Shalimar and lemon frosting. The house was staged, never-used tablecloth, good plates, candles. Aunt Ruth was there, the cousins, Dad at the grill window. Kyle came last, freshly washed truck gleaming. He ruffled my hair. I let him. Dinner ran like one of Mom's productions, on time, on script. Pot roast, the carrots Kyle likes, rolls in a cloth-lined basket. Mom gave a toast about family being the only thing that lasts, about roots and branches. Everything you have, Leah, came from this family. I raised my glass and drank. Between the roast and the cake, my phone buzzed. Reyes had sent 2 photos. The first, the certified POA, the smear on the witness line resolved. Witness number 2, Kyle Frank Townsend. The second, a loan payoff record from March 2019. An $11,000 truck loan Kyle's settled in full from an account belonging to Frank and Carol Townsend. The week I was wired to a monitor with our son, my brother stood at a notary's counter and swore he watched me sign. The truck he'd bragged about for years, best thing I ever did, getting that loan gone, was paid for with my stolen identity. 11,000, that's the number my brother sold me for. I flushed the toilet for the audience, washed my hands, and came back smiling. The candles on the cake stayed unlit. Mom leaned toward Dad, dropped her voice to the register she thinks is private, and said it, "Since everyone's here, have your son change the locks at her apartment." Dad gave a small nod. Kyle set his napkin down, said he had to take a call, and walked out with his key ring. I sat there, monitoring the room like a telemetry screen. 1 hour later, Kyle came back through that front door with a face the color of hospital sheets. He crossed to my mother, bent to her ear, and whispered, "Mom." There, the room went silent. There are police at her building. They stopped the locksmith in the lot. They have paper. Mom, a warrant, a detective. They knew my name when I got out of the truck. They knew about Friday. The room didn't explode. It went quiet. Ruth's hand stopped midair. Dad went gray. My mother smiled, a hostess smile past its expiration. Then Dad's phone rang, screen up, the bank's regional office. He didn't answer. My mother turned to me, the only person still seated, napkin in my lap. "What did you do?" she hissed. "You called the police on your own family." I stayed in my chair. "You're right, Mom. Even the debt." I slid one piece of paper across the table. "That's a credit inquiry from 5 weeks ago. Run on a 7-year-old. Pass it around." Ruth read it. "He is 7, she whispered. My mother didn't look at the page. She swung between tears and blame. "Your father handled the accounts. Ask him." Dad, both hands flat on the table, said, "She's telling the truth. All of it." Kyle stood wrecked by the hutch. I looked at him last. 11,000 for your signature, Kyle. You want to know what it bought? Ask my son. My mother made her last stand. I am your mother. This is my house, and we are your family, and family doesn't need permission. I stood unhurried, collected my purse. It does now, I said. It's called a warrant. Aunt Ruth followed me to the kitchen. I took the cake box off the counter, more than half the lemon cake left. Ruth opened the back door. You call me, she said. I drove home with the windows down. The cake belted into the passenger seat. The Maple Crossing lot was quiet. One unmarked car sat dark at the far end. Walt stood at his front window with a mug, gave me a small nod. Biscuit's tail thumped once against the glass. My new deadbolt turned like silk. The first door that was ever only mine. The next 2 weeks moved on paper. Charges were filed: identity fraud, forgery, theft against my mother, forgery and complicity against my father. The search warrant brought the manila folder out of the china hutch in an evidence bag. Kyle came in with a lawyer, told all, and signed on as a cooperating witness. The $85,000 loan never funded. My condo's title stayed clean. The $19,400 in fraudulent debt came off my name, account by account. At her arraignment, my mother pleaded not guilty and told the judge it was a family misunderstanding. The system she'd gamed for 12 years finally read her file. 3 months later, on a Saturday morning in October, my whole world fit inside one parking lot. Noah did bike laps around the islands, while Walt called out lap times and Biscuit refereed from the grass. Tessa came by with coffee. My mail comes to one address now, mine. Aunt Ruth calls every Sunday. She and I talk about raccoons and Noah's spelling tests. It's its own kind of medicine. I don't take calls from my parents' lawyer. Kyle texted me in September, long and sorry. I read it, put the phone down, and finished making dinner. I haven't answered, and I haven't blocked him. Some doors you don't slam. You just stop oiling the hinges. As for Noah, I told him the truth in the size he could carry. Grandma did something dishonest with Mommy's name, and it's grown-up trouble. None of it was your fault. He thought about it for a day, asked if Biscuit could come to his birthday, and moved on. His credit stays frozen until he's 18. The savings bond from Grandma Margaret hangs framed above my desk, not for the money, but for the signature. Hers and only hers on her own paper. Last week, Noah asked why it was up there. I told him a smart, quiet lady kept one thing safe her whole life and gave it to us. Like a treasure? Exactly like a treasure, baby. The lemon cake was gone in 2 days. I've ordered my own from Ashley's every July since. 3 layers. Lemon. Don't argue. It tastes better when your name on the receipt is the only place your name is working. I used to think love meant handing people your keys and hoping. Now I know love is the one thing in this world that never needs to practice your signature. That's my story. 12 years of statements, 1 manila folder, and a locksmith who never got to drill. If this reminded you to pull your credit report or freeze your kid's credit, take that as a sign and do it today. And if someone you love needs to hear this, share it with them.